Welcome back to the MiddleTree Church podcast. Today, you're joining us for a series titled The Oracles of Isaiah. Through these 5 weeks, we explore the prophetic messages God spoke into a fearful and chaotic world, messages that still bring hope to our lives today. Each week reveals how these ancient promises find the fulfillment in Jesus and invite us to trust in Him more deeply.
Well, good morning, everyone. You see that guy that just came up here? He's walking away. Okay, that guy's Chris. He's our new ushers coordinator. Yeah. So if any of you want to get riled up and act foolish, you're going to have to mess with him. All right, it's no longer me. It's that guy. He's going to take you down, and he knows what a rear naked choke is. So, all right. So, well, we've made it to the holiday season. We did it, folks. Yes, we survived. It's Thanksgiving week. Are you thankful? Yes. This is the time we make a sport of eating. Who can eat the most, right? We test our belts is what we do. Yeah, see how many notches we can blow out. So it's a good. Who has favorites of food? Who's in the green bean casserole camp? Okay. Mashed potatoes camp? How about the stuffing? Okay. The sadistic cranberry sauce? Oh, well, okay, well. There are other churches in the city that you can go to if that's, the kingdom is wide. So, yes, Thanksgiving week, and then we step into Advent season. Did any of you celebrate Advent growing up? Okay, I didn't grow up in the church I was in, we didn't practice Advent. I didn't even know what that was until I became an adult. And so Advent is kind of this preparing, this looking forward to the coming of Christ. Like we believed in Jesus, but that tends to be more in the kind of the mainline or Catholic kind of tradition. And so Advent is the preparation for the coming of Christ. And so we're stepping into a little bit of that season. And today, this was set to be a standalone message, but those are always the hardest for whatever reason as a pastor to come up with just a single message. So I just extended Christmas. We're starting Christmas a little early this year, okay? So this is good. So this is, and we're going to look at a little bit at the Christmas story. You know it, but Mary finds out she's pregnant, and Joseph finds out she's pregnant. And he's kind of concerned, and so he's thinking, I'm going to separate from this woman. And an angel appears to him, says, don't be afraid, this is of God. And this child to be born is going to be save people from their sins. And then it goes on to say this in Matthew 1, verse 22 and 23. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. So that first line there, to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. So this was a prophecy that was foretold long ago. And every Christmas, we'll preach this message, God with us, Emmanuel. That's a sermon you'll hear every Christmas year. But there's a prophecy behind this. And this prophecy goes back to this prophet named Isaiah. In fact, a lot of prophecies, Isaiah is one of the most referenced books in the New Testament. In fact, a lot of our prophecies that you'll find in the Christmas story or in the crucifixion are pointing back to the prophet of Isaiah. But what is Isaiah all about? Where did this prophecy originate? What was happening in the time of Isaiah's day that he took pen to paper and wrote out these things? What was going on at that time that this prophecy was written down and for? Have you ever wondered that? Well, that's the beauty of what we're going to explore in this series, is we're going to look at what we're calling the oracles of Isaiah. All these prophecies had an original context. What were they? Why did he write, the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel? And so the context of these writings of when Isaiah was living was a time of great fear. It was a time of threat, a time of uncertainty, and judgment was coming, but there was also this hope that Isaiah was pronouncing. And so if you're here this morning, you may have a similar scenario in your life. You may be in a cloud of fear, a cloud of uncertainty, not sure what is around the corner, what is coming up, and you're kind of fearful of what that could bring. But also want you to know that there is a hope that you can have. And so let's look back. I'm going to pull back and step into our little time machine here. And we're going to go back to lay the historical backdrop of Isaiah. So just a quick history lesson for us, just to get us on the same page. So beginning, when the Israelites came out of Egypt, God delivered them. They were one nation, right? And they moved into the promised land, which is modern-day Israel, and they were 12 tribes that made up one nation. But in 931 BC, the kingdom was divided, all right? So 10 of these tribes went north, and they became Israel, or also Ephraim. Israel, Ephraim, that's the same. And then 2 tribes in the south, Benjamin and Judah, became Judah. All right, so that's kind of the history of things. Now, both of these nations were starting to walk away from God. Israel more so. They really stepped into what you could just call wickedness. All right, really walked away from God, lived their own lives and did as they saw fit. And Judah was probably a few steps behind them, but they were both on the same path, okay? And so God would raise up these prophets to begin to call them back into covenant relationship with God. They were mouthpieces for God. People, don't forget your first love. I'm calling you back into covenant relationship. When God says, you are my people and you are my God, there's this covenant relationship that we are to have. And the prophets were continually calling people's hearts back to God. And so he'd raise up prophets like Hosea and Ezekiel. And one of those prophets was Isaiah. Isaiah was raised up to speak to the people. And so while worshiping in the temple one day, Isaiah is swept up in a vision. And he's standing before the throne of God. And this is where God touches his lips, and he's called him to be a prophet. Okay? So in 739 BC, okay, fast forward a number of years, there's a huge threat in the kingdom. It's up in the upper right there, Assyria. They're a powerhouse nation, right? And they're expanding rapidly. This is modern-day northern Iraq. And so they're expanding rapidly. Their biggest threat is probably Babylon. Babylon will eventually overtake them. But they're expanding. They're fighting with Babylon. They can't go to the east. They can't go to the north because there's a big mountain range there. And so they're going to the west towards the Mediterranean. And if you zoom in, go to the next slide, that is a big threat to Aram and Israel. And it looks like my slide got cut off, but Aram and Israel are the looming threat to Assyria expanding. And right below Israel, where it got cut off, is Judah. All right, Judah is right there. And so what was happening is that Israel and Aram were feeling the heat of Assyria coming. Big powerhouse. And so they decided to join forces. And they were going to try to resist Assyria. And they talked to Judah and said, Judah, you're going to join with us in resisting this powerhouse. And Judah was like, not really wanting to do that. And so Israel, there's too many names here. Israel and Aram are going to join forces, and they're going to actually attack Judah because they won't team up with them. So they sweep through the land of Judah, start destroying all these cities on the hillside, and they lay siege to Jerusalem, but they can't overtake it. And so this is where Isaiah steps into the picture, because the people are terrified. Ahaz is the king of Judah, and he's shaking in his boots. He doesn't know what to do. The people are fearful. These two nations, Israel and Aram, they're going to attack us again. They're going to keep coming back. They're never going to leave us alone. And they're questioning what to do. And so King Ahaz has this thought. He's going to partner with Assyria. That's his plan. This is my hope. This is my salvation. Isaiah steps in and says, No. Don't befriend the enemy of your enemies. That is not the way. That is not your hope. That is not your salvation. All right? That's what he's saying. Trust in the Lord. Okay? That's the backdrop of what we're about to read. You cool? Yeah. Thank you for enduring history. You thought you were out of high school, but this is important stuff. So here's the title of my message today if you're taking notes. Trusting God when facing fear. Trusting God when facing fear. Here's my 3 points today. Fear reveals what we trust. If we don't trust God, we end up trusting what will destroy us. And we've been given a promise, God with us. All right? Isaiah chapter 7, verses 1 through 14. We'll put it on the screen. You can read along. When Ahaz, son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, was king of Judah, King Rezin of Aram and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, marched up to fight against Jerusalem, but they could not overpower it. So there's the Judah, Aram, and Israel. Now the house of David, which is Judah, was told, Aram has allied itself with Ephraim, or Israel. So the hearts of Ahaz and his people were shaken, as the trees of the forest are shaken by the wind. Then the Lord said to Isaiah, go out, you and your son Shaar-Jashub, to meet Ahaz at the end of the aqueduct of the upper pool on the road to the launderer's field. Say to him, be careful, keep calm, and don't be afraid. Do not lose heart because of these 2 smoldering stubs of firewood. Yet this is what the sovereign Lord says. It will not take place. It will not happen. For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is only Rezin. Within 65 years, Ephraim, or Israel, will be too shattered to be a people. The head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is only Remaliah's son. If you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all. Again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz, ask the Lord your God for a sign, whether in the deepest depths or in the highest heights. But Ahaz, the king of Judah, said, I will not ask. I will not put the Lord to the test. Then Isaiah said, hear now, you house of David, which is Judah. Is it not enough to try the patience of humans? Will you try the patience of my God also? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. That made perfect sense to you, didn't it? Like, what is all those names? Here's my first point. Fear reveals what we trust. Fear reveals what we trust. Judah was told that Ephraim and Aram were teamed up. And I love this opening line. It says, the hearts of Ahaz, the king, and his people were shaken as the trees of the forest are shaken by the wind. I love that imagery. It's like you imagine these trees and the wind's blowing and the leaves just kind of do this thing. And this is the condition of the hearts of the people of Judah, is they're just thinking about the future. They're just thinking about the impending doom. They're thinking about another attack. They're thinking of their friends outside in the cities that got wiped out. And they're shaking, they're quivering. What do we do? Fear reveals what we trust. Any of you who are parents, any of you who have nieces and nephews, you see this, truth played out whenever they get scared, they run and hide behind your leg. Like they run to the thing that they find security in, the thing that they think is going to keep them safe, don't they? Because fear exposes your functional savior, the thing that you perceive that's going to protect you or keep you safe. If there were a test to determine what it is that you trust in your life, you know what that test would be called? Fear. That would be the test that would reveal what it is that you trust, okay? And it's also true that fear doesn't just reveal what you trust, it reveals what you don't trust. Reveals what you don't trust. I remember watching a video of the person who invented bulletproof glass. And there was this video, it showed him demonstrating how effective it was. He had his wife hold up the glass, and he shot at her. And it's like, I'm just like, whoa, okay? Like, I don't care. Like, I could have invented it and demonstrated it time after time after time after time, but to get up and hold it, even though I know, I mean, that's a whole different level of like, do I trust this, you know? Do I trust this? Ahaz is this king who's full of fear, and Isaiah is pleading with him. Put your trust in the Lord, Ahaz. I know you're fearful. Put your trust in the Lord. And the reason it was so hard for Ahaz to put his trust in the God of Israel, the God of the Bible, is because he never did. He was this man, if you looked at 2 Kings chapter 16, he was this man who was very wicked. He sacrificed his own son to a false god. He was just a wicked man doing wicked things. And he had in the temple, he went and worshiped the God of Israel as far as offering sacrifices. He had a performative kind of faith, but his faith was revealing in fear that he did not trust in the Lord. And so King Aram is terrified. And he's out pacing in the road, questioning what to do. And God tells Isaiah to go and speak with him. And Isaiah in verse 4 goes up to him, and this is what he says. Right off the bat, he says, be careful, keep calm, and don't be afraid. Do not lose heart. Because of these two smoldering stubs of firewood. He's saying two things. The first one is this: the two smoldering stubs of firewood. That's the two nations that are attacking you. They're like two smoldering stubs of firewood. They're flaming out. They're not going to last. They're not going to be a threat much longer, is what he's saying. All right, these two nations, these things you're afraid of, these threats, it's not going to be there much longer, okay? So that's the first thing he's saying. The second thing is this: keep a level head, okay? Don't lose your cool. Be careful, keep calm, and don't be afraid. Do not lose heart. You know, that's the opposite voice of fear. Yeah. Like the voice of fear sounds completely different than that. The voice of fear says, be rash, right? Panic, be suspicious, flee. That's the voice of fear. And he's saying the complete opposite, because here's what fear does. Fear makes you consider and do things that you would never consider and do otherwise, doesn't it? I mean, fear makes you do what we would call irrational things. Sometimes some of us have a fear of the future, a fear of the unknown. You see that a lot right now in the world. And you can look at it. You might be in a scenario, in a situation in your life, and you just see something looming, something uncertain, something unknown, and it terrifies you because you can role play all the different ways how this could go bad. What this means for you, what this means for the ones you love, the amount of suffering that could be involved, the consequences that could happen if we make a wrong turn or wrong decision. And you can role play all these different things because up ahead it's dark and cloudy and you can't make sense of it. It's uncertain and it's unknown, and it's what we call the future. And it can be terrifying. And if you are in fear, you can start to make decisions out of fear in an attempt to try to navigate the unknown, navigate the uncertainty. And so you start to overplan and you try to gain control in all kinds of ways. Well, I'm going to do this to try to eliminate that kind of risk, and you become risk avoidant. And you're doing everything, you're even avoiding making decisions out of all this fear, and it can handicap you. The only way you can step in the unknown is if everything becomes known. And the only way you can step into the uncertainty is if everything becomes certain. But those two can't exist at the same time. You'll never step into the unknown until things become known, and you can never step into the uncertainty. If it has to be certain, if you have to be certain about things, you will never, ever go into the unknown or the uncertainty with any kind of confidence. Those two can't exist at the same time. And this fear drives you and can lead you to make irrational decisions. The first thing to do with fear is keep a level head. Keep a level head. Be careful, keep calm, don't be afraid, don't lose heart. Respond with wisdom, not with reaction. And now this can sound just like a self-help book, but this is a spiritual thing. This is wisdom we're talking about. This is turning to the Lord, because fear is an invitation to begin to trust in the Lord. You have to see it that way. He's inviting you to know him, to trust in him. And how will you ever begin to trust in him until you begin to trust in him? You won't know. And so fear is this invitation for you. And the interesting thing is this, as I was doing my study here, I was thinking, you know how many times it talks about this in Scripture? These great men and women of God throughout the Bible, they're always told to not fear or don't be afraid. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Joshua, Hagar, Gideon, Elijah, like this list in the Old Testament goes on. And even throughout the Christmas story, you'll always hear these words, don't be afraid. Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, don't be afraid. Like fear is this context that God begins to speak into where something powerful is about to happen. Fear seems to be this context that kind of he shows himself in. And it's in the Christmas story even. So don't let fear drive you into some sort of decisions. I like to think of this way. This was an acronym that I came across years ago, and I found it very helpful. But the wise man halts. Memorize this. The wise man halts, and the halts is an acronym. If you're hungry, if you're angry, if you're lonely, if you're tired, if you're stressed, don't make a major decision. All right? Halt. Wait. Get a level head. The wise man halts, all right? Because if you're going to make a decision when you're stressed and you're tired and you're hungry and you're angry, you're lonely, if you're going to make a decision, it's going to be a bad, irrational decision. So halt. So before you file papers for divorce, halt. Before you sell the farm, quit your job, and go build a bunker somewhere, halt. All right? Before you put all the money on red, halt. Okay? Don't be desperate. Get a level head. All right? There's wisdom. Begin to shift your trust into the Lord. Wait on him, okay? All right. Fear is inviting you to trust in the Lord. Second, if we don't trust God, we end up trusting what will destroy us. The story is this: Ahaz refuses to trust God, and we know this because we know history, and we know how this story plays out. He does turn to Assyria and looks to them for help, who eventually will overrun the land and control the land. 2 Kings actually plays this story out, how it went down. King Ahaz goes to the temple and he empties out all the gold and the silver. And he goes to his own household, he empties out all the gold and silver. And he approaches the king of Assyria and says, "We pledge our servanthood to you. We will be a vassal to you. Here's what we need you to do. We need you, Assyria, to come and wipe out Aram, to wipe out Damascus, the capital of Aram." And he does that. Assyria comes in and wipes out Damascus, and they take it over. And after this happens, King Ahaz goes up to Damascus, and he meets the king of Assyria there. And it says King Ahaz began to take a sketch of the altar that he got, and he sends this sketch back with his priests to Jerusalem and instructs them to build this new altar in the temple. So they remove all the altar that was there. They move the bowls, they move the posts, they move the curtains, they rearrange all the furniture in the temple and erect this new altar to this new God. And they actually take the bronze altar that was there to serve God and they put it behind the new altar. And it says this, the reason he did it is he wanted to keep it there for seeking guidance. So he's going to keep the Lord kind of just on the side, just if he needed, like if this God didn't work out or if he needed something else, like he kept the altar to God on the side behind the new one. But his heart had now been pledged to this new foreign god. And turning to this other nation for salvation, they literally turn to another god. Whatever we trust in place of God will eventually turn on us and subdue us. False saviors might offer a short-term relief, but they offer long-term ruin. They lead to slavery inside of fear. And Isaiah's challenge is this: King, put your trust in the Lord. He says in verse 9, if you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all. The fear that you're having is this, is that the fear is telling you that you must come to terms with God, not to terms with your enemies. And the only way to know how trustworthy God is to put your trust in him. So whatever fear you have, if you try to resolve it with anything outside the Lord, it will inevitably enslave you. When I was in high school, I was a big tennis player. And I was all in on tennis for a little bit. And to show my age, I'm going to show you this picture. That's me. No, I just kidding. Does anyone know who this is? Andre, okay. We do have some astute tennis. So Andre Agassi, he was a rebel. He kind of took the tennis world by storm because he looked different. And of course, that flowing hair. Yeah, I had a mullet for a while. I'll have to show you that sometime. But he stormed on the scene, and I read his book a couple years ago. It's called Open. It's an autobiography he wrote. It's pretty interesting. But he talked in this book that he began losing his hair when he was around 19 years old. And if you know Andre Agassi, he was known for his image. That was even a campaign he did with, I forget which, Canon or something. Image is everything. And so he kind of like built up like this image of who he was, and it brought a lot of love and affection and attention around his image. But at 19, he started losing his hair, so he started wearing a hairpiece. And so the night before he was going to enter his first Grand Slam, he was showering, and his hairpiece started falling apart. And he's panicking. And so he calls his brother, and his brother comes over, and they take like 20 different bobby pins, and they're piecing this thing together, trying to hold it together. And so the next morning is the big event, the Grand Slam he's going to play in. And he writes this in his autobiography. He writes, warming up before the match, I pray. Not for a win, but for my hairpiece to stay on. My tenuous hairpiece has me catatonic. With every lunge, every leap, I picture it landing on the clay. I can picture millions of people suddenly leaning closer to their TVs, turning to each other, and in dozens of languages and dialects saying some version of, did Andre Agassi's hair just fall off? He says this fear consumed him. He went into the match highly favored to win, but because he was so concerned, so worried, he lost 3 sets to 1. He said after that match, he was so enthralled with so worried and so concerned about it. That was actually a picture of that match. He was so concerned, so worried about that his girlfriend looked at him and said, you need to cut it all off. And his response was, I'll feel naked. Who will I be without this? This is my image. This is the Bieber hair, this is whatever. This is who I am. And she's like, no, you won't. You'll feel liberated. And so after thinking on it a little bit, he ended up shaving off his hair. In his first tournament with a bald head was another Grand Slam. It was the Australian Open, and he just dominates this performance. And he realized he called his hairpiece a shackle. He said, this had been a shackle for me. For Agassi, this fear, this shame of who he was, it involved a hairpiece, right? If I show a flaw in this image, I won't be liked, I won't be esteemed, I won't be who everybody expects me to be and I'm supposed to be. And with this hairpiece, he was constantly under fear, always with every, like he said, with every stroke, with every backhand, with every serve, with every forehand, with everything. There's always this concern, I'm going to be exposed, I'm going to be found out, I'm going to be a fraud, I'm going to be made fun of, I'm going to lose it all my credibility. And we can all wrestle with some sort of fear of significance of what is this? This is the thing that makes me matter. It's these letters after my name. It's this reputation. It's this expertise that I have. We see this played out all the time on social media. If this is the thing that I'll be known for, it's this. And the more clicks and the more affirmation I receive, this is it. And how you know if this is kind of something happening in your life is your response to how your day is determined on these kinds of feedback that you get. Life is good if the feedback is going well. Life is bad if the feedback is not there, if the performance isn't there. And your identity begins to get anchored into something, into things, into people who don't really care about you. They care about you as long as you're performing, as long as you're offering, as long as you're making them laugh, as long as you're making them lust, as long as you're making them whatever it is that's appealing, as long as you're offering, they are clicking. You're seeking affirmation, and it's never enough. And in verse 9, Isaiah says, if you do not stand firm in your faith, you're not going to stand at all. If everything is going to be tied to this hairpiece, whatever your hairpiece is, if that's where you're getting the affirmation, if your love is anchored in that, your worth is anchored in that, it's gonna fall. It's gonna fall out. God's invitation is this: stand firm in me, put your faith in me, trust in me. My new favorite verse, I just came across it a couple weeks ago. I don't know why it stood out, but it's Jesus in Luke 21, verse 19. He says this: stand firm and you will win life. I'm like, that's awesome, Jesus. Like, I'm going to make a t-shirt with that. Stand firm and you will win life. Third point, we've been given a promise, God with us. So in verse 14, the promise is this. This is the prophecy. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel. The story is this. Isaiah goes to them and says, everything I'm telling you, King Ahaz, is true. These two nations aren't going to amount to anything. They're going to smolder out. They're going to dissipate. They're going to go away. And to prove it, ask God for a sign. Ask him for anything you want. And King Ahaz replies like this: no. I'm not going to put the Lord to the test. It's kind of a self-righteous thing. He's already made up his decision. And Isaiah responds like, okay, it's one thing to test my patience, but you're going to test the patience of God? All right, then let me give you the sign of this is going to be how it plays out. The sign is this. And then he gives the prophecy of therefore the Lord will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel. What he's saying is there is a woman out there without child. She's going to get pregnant. And before, you're going to see this, we didn't read this in today, but 2 verses later in verse 16, it says this child's going to grow up. And before this child gets to an age of reason, these two nations are going to be gone. So he's laying a timeline. This child is coming. And before he ages up to where he can know right from wrong, these two nations are going to be gone. The threat is going to be gone. That's how soon this is going to be happening. That's how quick this is going to happen. Deliverance is going to be brought from the Lord. God is going to save us. This is the promise. This is the prophecy that he's given. All right? That's the prophecy. That's the context. Now, what is Isaiah referring to? What is this? Who is this child? And this is really interesting. I don't have time to get into this morning. There's a lot of speculation of who this child is in their day. Whether it's Isaiah's kid, whether it's King Ahaz's kid, who goes on to be Hezekiah, who's a man of God, There's a lot of speculation. I'm not getting into that today. The point is this, is there's a timeline being laid out that these two nations, these things you're so fearful of that has you doing this, it's going to be a threat no more in just a very short time. God's deliverance is coming. Salvation will be found in him. Hang on. So, to understand this is a prophecy. So what does this have to do with Jesus? Here's something you have to understand about prophecy. It's called dual fulfillment. All right? Dual fulfillment. Prophecies work in layers, okay? Think of it like this. I've heard it explained this way. There's, like if you're standing far away from a mountain range. If you're looking at the mountain range, it looks like just one giant mountain with hills and all that. But as you get closer, you see that there's layers. There's mountain, and then there's mountain, and then there's a mountain, and then there's a mountain. Right? There's layers to the mountains. And this is how prophecy works. It works in these kind of this dual layer, a here and a then, a now or near and a far. Okay? So the near fulfillment works like this. There's a real time, there's real people, there's a real fear, there's a real situation that is happening. And the prophecy is speaking to right then and there, and it could happen and be fulfilled within the next few years or the next decade or two. But it will be fulfilled in that kind of timeline. And that is the near. And in this, in Isaiah chapter 7, it's this child's going to be born, and there's a prophecy that's with that child's life, and it's going to happen in this timeline. So there's a near fulfillment that's addressing the fears, the situation of that day and time to those people that it's actually being spoken to. That's the near. But then there's a far. There's a distant one, a future one. And this answers how God is going to address this for all time, in all situations, for all times of fear, for all sin, for all rebellion, for all wickedness, for all brokenness, for all like how to discern, how to move forward, what the future is. There's a future fulfillment that's going to be answered. And what is that future prophecy? And so in Isaiah 7, he's pointing to this virgin birth of Jesus in Matthew chapter 1, that God is with us in the fullest sense. And this is the promise that is for us still today. Is that there's a prophecy that spoke to an eternal truth into Isaiah's day and into Mary and Joseph's day and to us still today that Jesus is coming. There is a hope in that. There is a hope in who he is, and that God is addressing fears, and he's addressing brokenness, and he's addressing shame, and he's addressing our sin through Christ. And Christ is answering these, and the fear, the uncertainty, the threat, and all of that is undone in Christ. And Ahaz, this is the cool, like Isaiah's approaching Ahaz, and he's like, you've been this wicked man. You've been this man who's just been performative in your faith, who looks to God in some ways in performance, but in every other way your heart is doing these awful, evil things. You've lived for yourself and for your own glory. And even you, Ahaz, you can turn and trust in the Lord today and find salvation in him. Same is true for us today, that Christ is our salvation. He is this fulfillment of the eternal hope. He taps into this eternal truth that we find life in him. And so Emmanuel, God with us, is both a comfort and a confrontation. It's a comfort because God is with us into the uncertainty, into the unknown, that he is this leg that we get to hide behind and find salvation in and protection and deliverance in. It's a comfort. But he's also confrontation, because if he is our comfort, then why are we trusting in anything else? If he is our comfort, then why do we have to have everything planned out? Why do we have to maintain complete control? Why can't we walk into uncertainty? Why can't we walk into the future with some degree of trust in who he is? And so here's my questions for us today as we prepare our hearts for communion. Where is God saying to me today Be careful, keep calm, don't be afraid, do not lose heart. What alliances, what compromises are you tempted to join right now? Because there's some sense of security in there. What alliances are you tying your heart to that are outside of the Lord, that you're like, if I can just secure this, then I'll be able to move forward? What of that is outside of the Lord? That won't last. You'll become slave to that thing. You'll start to have to perform to that thing. What fear is shaping my decisions right now more than God's voices? Where's this hairpiece? What is this hairpiece in your life that you think just another bobby pin or two, and that's going to be the thing? And yet you go to play, you go out to live out life, and everything is just to keep that hairpiece on. Don't swing too hard. Don't do too much, because the hairpiece will fall off and I'll be exposed. And when maybe the Lord is just saying, shave it off. Metaphorically, spiritually, yes, you'll be naked. Yes, you'll be surrendered. Yes, you'll be exposed. Your heart will be laid bare. Yes, but that's where you'll find freedom. You'll find liberation. You will no longer have to perform. And when you go out there to take a ground stroke, you'll be all in it. You'll be ready to win. Stand firm and you will win life. What step of courage would I take this week if I truly believe the Lord is with me? If you really believe that, the Lord is with me in this relationship, in this uncertainty of this health condition, in the finances of my life. What if you knew God was truly with you and you were able to trust Him? What step of courage would you be able to take if you knew that was true, that your effort wasn't in through throwing another bobby pin? What would freedom look like if you released that thing? If you just shaved it off? Who in your life would be affected by you living with such trust and faith in the Lord? What would it do in their lives? Forget your life for a minute. Look at it. Consider those around you, like, oh, wow, Mom. Wow, my brother. Wow, my uncle. Like, that man's walking with his shoulders back in reliance with the Lord. This is a new man, a new creation. So many kids right now have such a fear of the future. And I just want to, I want to see adults, men and women of God, just no, have a kid. Don't be scared of the future. Have children. Bring kids into this world. Live with hope in Christ. Don't just live in fear. Don't navigate your life in fear. Fear is a horrible master. Trust in the Lord. There is good in Him. There is life in Him. There is hope in Him. Don't fear the things that are going to smolder out. There's a promise of prophecy given to you, found in Jesus Christ. He is with us. You don't have to fear. You don't have to fear. Don't navigate your decisions through the voice of fear. Trust in the Lord. Have a confidence in the Lord. It's the only way to navigate life. It's the only way to navigate uncertainty. It's the only way to navigate fear, is to receive it as an invitation to look to you and say, I will walk with my shoulders back and my head up. Confidence, because you're with me. Amen. Love you, church.
Not yet connected, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching MiddleTree Church, or by clicking the link in the description below. You can also fill out a connection card by texting WELCOME to 314-710-2028. If you're here in St. Louis, or maybe you're passing through someday, we would love to meet you in person. We meet Sundays at 10:30 at 2105 McCausland Avenue.